As part of our meditation this evening, these compelling words of the great Taoist master Sosan. When the deep meaning of things is not understood, then the mind's essential peace is disturbed to no avail. The great way is perfect, like vast space, where nothing is lacking and nothing is in excess. Live neither in the entanglements of outer things, nor in inner feelings of emptiness. Sosan. Meditation does not always result in feelings of peacefulness, in feelings of serenity, deep relaxation. And that's why we run into difficulties when we project the result we want from meditation. Sri Brahmananda made it very clear that we should move towards meditation, towards the witnessing that we do, with a feeling of enthusiasm, great joy, expectation of no expectation. Sometimes the state of meditation becomes a dynamic state, full of light, full of movement, full of passion, with no limit to it. Not a state of rest, but a state of blossoming, of flowering. And other times, it is the state where we, even as the witness, are absent, where the meditator disappears. Having said that, let's move into our great adventure this evening. Let us see a natural state of meditation which is never attained, but only revealed. Be very alert. Move out of the body-mind entity into the witnessing mode. And just allow your attention to move wherever it is attracted. The witnessing process opens the door to effortless awareness, effortless meditation. Because the chanting sounds as though it's coming from the Vatican in Rome. Very powerful. I was smiling during the meditation because I never talk after the opening lines. I just let you and myself meditate in silence. I was actually having an argument with Sri Brahmananda. He said, "You forgot to say something. Remind them." I said, "Not now, Gurji, not now. I will next Saturday." "Now?" He says. I found myself being moved to talk. I don't hear voices, I'm not disturbed. But it was just a feeling that I should emphasize the importance of the witnessing process, because that's what has proven to be so helpful. It's been going on 5,000 years, written in the Gita, and Sri Brahmananda emphasized it a lot. But it was very funny because I really don't like to talk, ever. But, I talk a lot. And I won't tell you who's responsible, but it's not me, I can assure you. And I don't want to talk too much aside from the programs or the readings, because we have a concert at 8:30, and there's a very significant topic that came up first with the excerpt from Guruji, and then with a reading from the Book of Nothing. It's called the emphasis, the Book of Sosan's teachings. I read just a little excerpt from it, but he is considered, although his teachings very small, fit into a very small book, but he's one of the great Taoist masters, just from what I read in the meditation about not getting entangled in the things of the world, but also not moving into emptiness. There has to be a balance, and you'll be hearing about it tonight. I myself was so struck by that statement that you'll be hearing more of what I read, that it just changed my whole outlook in the last few days. Just those lines. It's as if they were for me first and then for you. So I'll read from Guruji's statement, his commentary from the Atma Bodha, which is the teachings of Sri Shankaracharya. And Guruji's commentary is in a book based on Atma Bodha, translations of Atma Bodha and commentary, which Guruji renamed Self-Knowledge, Self-Analysis, and Self-Knowledge. And we have it in the gift shop. It's a wonderful book. This is what Guruji says. He says, reality cannot be realized by reading holy books. Howsoever a person may repeat the names of delicious foods in his mind, he's not able to taste them, nor can he satisfy his hunger. But on the other hand, when a person prepares delicious food and eats it, then he will enjoy it and be satisfied. Likewise, our holy books, our scriptures, contain only the description and prescription of reality, but it cannot contain reality itself. One is not advised to abandon reading scriptures and hearing instructions, but in addition to these things, one is advised to do self-analysis. If anyone is falling asleep listening to my soft voice, I'm going to call on you to answer a question. I say that because my voice puts even me to sleep. So be careful. I need you alert tonight. These are not easy teachings. The Guruji just said, he's not telling us to stop reading, certainly not to stop reading the scriptures and studying them and hearing the instruction. But he says, in addition to these things, one is advised to do self-analysis. One must know one's own ultimate nature and the ultimate nature of the universe. My question is, because it doesn't help if we hear these beautiful words, and sometimes astonishing words, if we don't see a way of applying this, applying what we just heard. So my question is, since this ashram was opened in 1964, originally with the title of the Institute of Self-Awareness and Self-Analysis, that's what we were. My question is, how can self-analysis help us to know reality? Help us to know our real nature? Because if we can't answer that, then I don't even need to go on reading the rest of the evening because I'm reading from a book. But we're supposed to get, at this point, have that understanding that we hold reality within us. We are that reality. And here we're being told, in addition to reading and listening to scriptures, hearing instructions, we're being advised to do self-analysis. One must know one's own ultimate nature and the ultimate nature of the universe. And Gurji is saying to you, we learn that into the witnessing mode analysis. I'll give you a little hint because it's not fair. Usually we think of self-analysis in terms of psychotherapy. It is attractive. This has nothing to do with that. The witnessing process has a little to do with that, but only in terms of self-analysis, with self being spelled with a capital. Meditation. Self-analysis. Anybody? By the way, this is a magical place. Magical place. Walter in a minute. Magical place. Everything you say, I'm going to say is right. I will, starting with Walter. Provided you provide us with an answer. Any kind of answer from the Vatican in Rome. Neti, where we stop the whole discussion. Neti means any violence to continue. Walter, you're very sharp tonight. Because our Guru made it easy. Neti is the answer given in the scriptures to the question, what is that by knowing which everything is known? And the answer is given, neti. Not this, nothing you can point to. But it's implied that which is unknown is the answer to the question. That's the highest answer. And if Gurji were here, he'd give you a flower, he'd give you a free weekend at the ashram. He'd be very happy with your answer because it's very high. But he would also say, now we need to come down a little for people who haven't gotten to that point where they understand. So yes. Yuppie. It's the holiday weekend, I can tell. Have to work hard. Yuppie. I promise you, you're right. And as the rabbi's wife asked the rabbi, how come when the husband met with you alone and complained about the wife, you said you're right to the husband? And later you sent the husband out, you brought the wife in, and you said to the wife when she complained about the husband, you said you're right? I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right of you. He said, you're right. So you're right. Whatever. However, I can tell you what Gurji said. He said that, as was mentioned, what he said pushed me to state, the purpose of meditation is just for us to become familiar with our real state, with the state of the witnessing I, the state of effortless awareness. The more we become familiar with that state and how we feel in that state, how exalted we feel, and how available it is, the more we will go towards that whole practice of witnessing, which can happen 24/7 all the time. Even when we're in deep dreamless sleep, there's consciousness, aware that we're in deep dreamless sleep. But we have to get away through the negative, Walter. That's what he told us. We cannot know ultimate reality by the thinking mind. We cannot know it on the plane of time and space. We have to transcend that. We have to go through what is not myself. What is not myself is anything that is changing. Does the body change? Yes. So I'm not that. Can I watch the body? Can I observe the sensations in my body? Can I watch the body breathe? Yeah, I can do that. So it's nice I have a body, But I just keep finding out through the witnessing process that I am something apart from the body. Can I watch the movements in my mind? Can I? Can I watch my mind thinking? Of course, because we're saying, I don't want to be thinking. I was hoping I wouldn't be thinking. Who is the I saying that? So we're watching the mind. Is the mind changing? Oh, of course. The senses, I can testify to that. They change every day. Every day I see a little less of them. They're changing. But thank goodness, I am not the senses. And it is possible to do all kinds of things as yogis, for which we ordinarily need the senses. We don't have to use the senses. Our guru had very heavy, thick cataracts. And at some point, he decided to have them removed. And so the staff called ahead to the ophthalmologist, made the appointment, and said that he has thick cataracts, has trouble seeing. He said, fine. And they went to the ophthalmologist, and he said, I understand you're having problems with cataracts. And Gurji, who was a neurosurgeon and a background in ophthalmology, said, yes, I am. He said, well, I would like to see what you can read. And he put up the eye chart, and he said, the second line, can you see that? He said, I can see whole chart. And he read from the top to the bottom. And the ophthalmologist was bewildered. And he said, I thought your student said you were having trouble seeing. He said, I didn't see the chart with my eyes. I saw through radio waves. They were the letters were sending signals. I think the ophthalmologist was very brave to operate on him. So there's other stories about that, but we have intuitive powers, and when we have transcended the life of body, mind, and senses, we are operating on an entirely different plane than when we're in our limited human form. So I don't want to leave out the other form of self-analysis, which Gurji emphasized again and again as being equally important. That's self-analysis with a small s, self-analysis. He said, we have to be able to see what is causing our tension, our pain, our jealousy, our loneliness, our frustration, our sense of abandonment. We have to be able to spot the source of all those emotional woes, because we will always find it is one culprit only. What is that? The thinking mind. Not the functioning thinking, but the thinking that leads to the loneliness, leads to the suffering, leads to the frustration, leads to that sense of unfulfillment. We just can't keep accepting that it's just my bad luck, that it happened to me because all things happen to me. And these other people who aren't nearly as nice as I am, they're just sailing through life without a problem. We have to spot it each time, that when we're in the witnessing state, we cannot be thinking at the exact same time. And if we're witnessing, we're free of those burdens, those emotional burdens. But we have to see it. If we don't see it, what's the point? Then you just do a useless exercise, using a technique that's not helping. But if you see it again and again, you ultimately become very wary and suspicious of your thinking mind. Not the thinking that helps us to function, that we like. That's called necessary thinking. But the other. So Gurji would say, just as Sosan's going to tell us, don't always escape from depression. Don't always run away from anxiety. Don't always try to change a lonely state. Check it out. Be your own therapist. Be your own doctor. Be your own guru. You can do that by observing, as a witness, the condition of your mind, the condition of your body, the condition of your senses. So you can answer the question that Guruji asked all the time. Does anyone in this room have a problem that is not related to your body, your mind, or your senses? I don't want to hear from yuppie yuppie. You had a chance. Is there anybody? No. No. How simple is that? But we have to see that as much as possible each and every day of our life to bring about a major transformation in the way we view life, view people, view relationships, view ourselves. Okay? How many of you are going to try to do that? Starting. Okay, good. Nice to talk to this group. Because Memorial Weekend, serious times. There are people dying as we speak, protecting us, you know that. There are wars going on all over the world, unnecessary wars. Wars are always unnecessary. Sad times, unemployment, so much. But go along with Sri Nisargadatta of I Am That. He said, if you really want to help people, if you really want to help people, he said, show them a way to realize that they are not in need of any help. I laughed because he said two things. The first one was always funny to me. That one was the one that was most important. If you want to help somebody, aside from helping to shelter them, giving them food, but if you want to help them emotionally, psychologically, unless they're clinically disturbed and they need professional help. If you want to help your friends to understand their lives better, to have a better way of life, first Nisargadatta said, you want to help those friends? Stay away from them. He said, because you make them worse. You're not in good condition yourself, so you bring that, and then that they add theirs to you. He said, it's a very bad arrangement. But both analyses are needed. One, to see what does not change in you. That's self-analysis with a capital S. You have to see again and again and again, when I'm in the witnessing state, when I'm in the here now, I do not have a problem. And I emerge from that state, which you didn't do anything to bring about. It's there. It just has to be uncovered. And it's uncovered by moving towards the effortless awareness. And then you pay attention to the negative, what Walter brought up right away. What is negative, meaning what is not you? And you keep finding all kinds of things. I am not loneliness. I'm not misery. I'm not illness. I'm not one who's afraid of dying. I'm not any of that. Because you find out, as came out in the meditation, if you're the witnessing eye, then nothing can destroy you. That's why and when the Gita makes sense, is when we have seen for ourselves that we are indestructible. Nothing can burn this body, nothing can kill this body, nothing. And if we know that, then we do not grieve when others are leaving their bodies, because the soul transmigrates. Who said it? All of them. All of the enlightened beings. Don't think, I'm just repeating for you, I'm just sharing with you. I'm a very well-wired radio. That's all I am. I always tell people that. I'm a good radio, but it's just the broadcasting of teachings that have helped people for thousands and thousands of years, myself included. Any questions about anything from this? It's one paragraph. And yet here we've been on this for quite a while now. I want to get to the second one, but if anyone has a question, I'll be glad. I see a lot of scratching, but I don't think that's a question. There's one? Okay, ask the question. Levon, you saw a question? How do you change your perception? You don't change the perception, but you can change your reaction. A perception comes that someone doesn't like me. All right? Who's asking the question? Raise your hand. A perception comes that someone doesn't like me. You may be right, you may be wrong, that's your perception. But in that perception is the possibility that it's just a perception on your part due to old transference problems, associative. We brought it up this afternoon in the afternoon program. Guruji, Sri Brahmananda, often said, we don't dislike someone within seconds of meeting him or her. It's just that that person reminds us instantly, through frequency, through vibration, through feeling, of someone we didn't like for good cause a long time ago. So I have learned in my own life not to linger on a perception, not to dwell on it. I get a perception that someone doesn't like me. I've learned not to trust my mind. My mind is full of opinions, maybe from 3,000 years ago, in the unconscious, collective unconscious. So I've learned from neti, and not this, that it's my mind that gets me into trouble all the time. I've watched it. The last thing I turn to for light and understanding is my mind, because it's not to be trusted. We get into trouble when we have a perception, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have an intuitive perception of something, but not to think about that perception. That's when we get into difficulty. Just let the perceptions come and go, and some of them are correct and will be borne out another time. If you keep getting a perception and you keep seeing that, this person didn't do anything wrong, she just looks like my sister or sounds like my mother or my old employer. You see that for yourself, that's self-analysis. And after a while, yes, the perceptions change. You might meet that person again. I'm just using that as an example. And you'll find you have different perceptions, because now you're looking in the moment, not through eyes of the past. I don't think I can add anything to that. That came out all right. Does that help you, or you need something more? We look with eyes, we look through eyes of the past. And we tend to be given experiences. It's like, I used the example this afternoon. If we keep running into the same type of person, we keep being attracted to the same type of person, the same negative vibration in people, we seem to attract them. I once heard Guruji say that's the same reason we keep having recurring dreams, is because we have never gone to the end of why that is happening. What it is that is unfinished in that relationship, not just with her or him, but anyone who is affecting me in a bad way. We keep repeating that experience. When we have a recurring dream again and again and again, it simply means we have never seen why that dream keeps coming. We just say, oh, it was terrible, same nightmare, I'm being chased by that spirit or that ghost, whatever we're having. A lot of people have nightmares about being chased. We learned from Guruji that one chasing us represents guilt in our life. But if we never stop to think, to look at, not think, but see, at least confront that dream, do I have guilt in my life? Do I have guilt regarding this type of person that I run away from, even though I never met her or him before? That's called self-analysis. And yes, ultimately, our perception changes if we're not seeing from old memories or old associations. Does that make sense to you? Okay. If it doesn't, if you still have other things come up after the program, it's a very powerful topic you raised, changing perceptions, changing conditioned responses. That's what you're asking about. And it's very important, and we're still working on it after being in this ashram 47 years. I am going to ask you to hold questions now because this reading from Sosan you shouldn't miss. But afterwards you come and see me? Okay. I'll remain as long as you like. I shouldn't say that, should I? Okay. She looks like a friendly person. She wouldn't take advantage. I do want to get to this because it really moved me so much and changed a whole perception of a situation when I read those words, these words. Some of them were in the meditation that I read. When the deep meaning of things is not understood, the mind's essential peace is disturbed to no avail, for no reason. The way, this is the Taoist way, the way of the Tao or Zen or yoga, the way is perfect, like vast space, where nothing is lacking and nothing is in excess. Indeed, it is due to our choosing to accept or reject that we do not see the true nature of things. It's due to our choosing to accept or reject that we do not see the true nature of things. Seems what I said to you, Lavan, today, right? To see why, away from our own thinking, why something could have happened and what role that person played. Live neither in the entanglements of outer things, nor in inner feelings of emptiness. Live neither in the entanglements of the world, nor in your inner feelings of emptiness. Be serene without striving activity in the oneness of things. Be serene without striving activity in the oneness of things, and such erroneous views will disappear by themselves. Be serene without effort. That's all he's saying. Can we do that? When you try to stop activity to achieve passivity, your very effort fills you with activity. This is Sosan, one of the greatest masters. When you try to stop activity, to stop the movements of your mind in order to achieve passivity, serenity, your very effort fills you with activity. As long as you remain in one extreme or the other, you will never know oneness. What Rajneesh called the two polarities, two extremes. What we need is to be in the middle. As long as you remain in one extreme, very active or very passive, or the other, you will never know oneness. Those who do not live in the single way, fail in both activity and passivity, in both assertion and denial. They're so high, they're so lofty. If we just stayed with this one statement of Sosan, we would ultimately be free. But it takes less time when we have another great master explaining in more simple terms. He says, and this is Osho, in the West, just a few years back, there was a French hypnotist, Émile Coué. He happened to rediscover one of the basic laws of the human mind. He called it the law of reverse effect. That is one of the oldest sutras in Taoist and Zen thinking. Sosan is talking about this law, the law of reverse effect. Try to understand this law, because then Sosan's sayings will be simple to understand. For example, if you don't feel sleepy, what will you do tonight? It's very hard to sleep at this ashram because it's very stimulating here. And there's an atmosphere that's charged. So you don't feel sleepy. What will you do? You'll try to get into sleep. You will make efforts. You will do this and do that, but whatsoever you do will bring just the reverse. That which you need will not come. Just the opposite will happen, because any activity, any effort is against sleep. Sleep is a relaxation. You cannot bring it to you. You cannot do anything for it to happen. You cannot force relaxation to come. You cannot will it. It's not part of your will at all. When I was much younger, when television was still a baby, there was a comedian named Sid Caesar. Anybody know of him? Sid Caesar? He had the funniest routine, which Sosan would have liked. He said, I have a way to put myself to sleep when I'm not sleepy. He did this with a German accent. And I only have to work at one final thing before it's perfect. I'll tell you up to now what has been working. You start with your toes. He says, toes, sleep. And you say it with total confidence. You sleep. Ankles, sleep. And calves, knees, thighs, sleep. And they listen, he said. They listen. You do it that way with that voice. Then you go arms and chest, and you sleep. And shoulders, and sleep. And face, you sleep. Eyebrows, sleep. Here we go with this eyebrow. Brain, sleep. Brain. Brain, you hear me? You sleep? Brain. Brain up, everybody up, that's the problem. He happened to be brilliant. But that's what he's saying here. He said the more you try to force the brain, which is the problem with relaxation, the mind, separate from the brain, but both are problems. He says you cannot, he said sleep is a relaxation. You cannot force it. You cannot will it. It's not a part of your will at all. It is moving into the unconscious, and your will is just a fragment of the conscious. When you move into the unconscious toward the depth, That fragment which is consciousness, that fragment which is will, is left on the surface. You cannot take your surface to the depth. You cannot take your circumference to the center. So when you make efforts to go into sleep, it is a self-destructive thing. You're doing something which will become just the opposite. You will become more awake. The only way to enter into sleep is not to do anything. If it's not coming, it's not coming. Wait. Don't do anything, because otherwise you will push it further away and a distance will be created. Just wait on the pillow. Turn the light off. Close your eyes. Relax and wait. Whenever it comes, it comes. You cannot bring it by any act of your will. For will is against the unconscious. And this happens in many things in life. Pay attention, because when I read this, it's like sometimes I found I was holding my breath till I got to the next sentence. These words go right to the heart of our problems. He says this happens in many things in your life. Just the opposite comes out of it. If you want to be silent, what will you do? Because silence is just like sleep, silence of the mind. You cannot force it. You can allow it to happen. It is a let go. But there's no way to work it out. What will you do if you want to be silent? If you do anything, you will be less silent than ever. We just had a silent retreat that was very successful. The reason those silent retreats are very successful, nobody talked. Even some of our staff loved it so much they went into silence. Because half the people who come are veteran silent retreat goers. So they know the routine. The thing that they have found helps them the most is not having eye contact with anyone. Even their roommate, their wife, their husband, whoever's in there, if there's no eye contact, then you're in contact with you. So they just avoid eye contact. And we have mothers and daughters and fathers and sons and husbands and wives and lovers and lovers. They don't talk. It's a miracle. We had only one failure. And we told him that don't come back. Not in the same situation. He was supposed to come alone, and he called and he asked special permission of me to let his fiancée come, which would have probably been all right, except they were to be married the following Saturday. Not only didn't she listen when I said, all couples, mothers, sons, daughters, sons, sit opposite, she wouldn't do it. Not only wouldn't she sit one seat away from him, any time of the retreat, she held his hand and whispered in his ear how much she was enjoying it. I was worried that the wedding would be called off because of this silence. But here was a case, she promised him she wouldn't talk. Promise, she wouldn't talk, and still she did. Stop poking Ashok, Amalama. I see you doing. I don't know why you're poking him, but I'm very curious. Ashok, I'll talk to you later, right? Because you can't poke him, I'm watching you. I don't know what it's about, but it looked very interesting. He says, if you want to be quiet, what will you do? Because quietness means non-doing. You simply float. You simply relax. And when I, Rajneesh says, simply relax, I mean simply. No method is to be used for relaxation, because method means, again, you are doing something. There is a book, the title of it is, "You Must Relax!" exclamation point. And must is just against relaxation. The must should not be brought in, otherwise you will become more tense. This law was discovered by Émile Coué, and he said, let things happen. Don't force them. There are things which can be forced, but all that belongs to the conscious mind that can be forced. Then there are things which cannot be forced. All that belongs to the unconscious, to your depth. That cannot be forced. It happens many times, you know this. You're trying to remember a name or a face, and it's not coming. But still you feel it's just on the tip of your tongue. A woman came today. She hadn't been back here since 1995, right? And I looked at her, and I knew her because I was very close to her at one time. She lived here, came here, spent time here, certainly, until she said her name. Then I said, oh, of course. But I couldn't get it. And I'm sure if she never had a chance to tell me her name and had gone home, up to the time I would have fallen asleep, it would have eluded me, but I would have remembered it in the morning. It's happened to me a lot. After relaxing, when I wasn't thinking about it, it would come back. It's happened to all of you, I know. The feeling is so deep that you feel it's going to come, and you try to bring it, and the more you try, the more it's not coming. You even become suspicious whether the feeling is true or not, that you know that word or that name. But you feel, your whole being says, it's there, just on the tip of your tongue. But why isn't it coming if it's on the tip of your tongue? It won't come. It will not come. Do whatsoever you want to do, it will not come. And you get frustrated, and you feel hopeless. So you drop the whole project because it's driving you crazy. So you let go of it, you go into the garden, you start working in the garden, you start reading the newspaper, you just put on the radio, you listen to music, and it pops up. Suddenly, it's there. What happened? I mean, it's happened to all of us. He's going to tell us what happened. It belonged to the unconscious. It was deep down in you. And the more you tried, the narrower you became. And the more you tried, the more the unconscious was disturbed. It became a chaos. But because you were too active to bring it out, you were using will, and will cannot bring anything out of your depth. Only surrender brings it. Only when you let go will it come. So you went into the park, the garden, you started reading, digging a hole in the earth, listening to the music. You forgot about the whole project. And suddenly it was there. This is the law of reverse effect. That's that famous law. With the unconscious, remember, will is of no use. Not only of no use, it's also dangerous, harmful. Now you'll hear about that in a minute. But Coué was a hypnotist. And he discovered this, that the more he tried to force his patients to remember, or saw that they were, using will to go into hypnosis, you had the reverse effect. They couldn't go under. They still remained. Lao Tzu, Chuang Tzu, Bodhidharma, Sosan, they are the masters of this law of cause and effect. And this is the difference between yoga and Zen. Now, we're all yogis here, so we have to open our minds to what they're saying. Yoga makes every effort, and Zen makes no effort. And Zen is truer than yoga. But yoga appeals because as far as you are concerned, doing is easy. Howsoever hard, but doing is easy. Also, the discipline of yoga, hatha yoga, is one thing. Using discipline in meditation doesn't work. Using discipline to set aside study hours for the scriptures or the study of Sanskrit, yes, that's needed. They're talking about something else. They're talking about coming upon your ultimate reality, which is inherent in you. You cannot do it by willpower, by discipline. Non-doing is difficult. If someone says, don't do anything, you're really at a loss. You say again, no, I have to do something. What to do? If someone says, don't do anything, that's the most difficult thing for you. It should not be so if you understand. Non-doing does not require any qualification. Doing may require qualification. Doing may require practice. Non-doing, which is witnessing is non-doing. You're just witnessing effortlessly. Non-doing requires no practice. Witnessing in the beginning, when you're not accustomed to witnessing, when it's not your natural, effortless doing, you have to start with a little bit of doing, a gentle doing, to make up your mind, I'm going to pay attention today. That's how you begin. Same with meditation. Meditation begins with some effort. You have to make an effort to sit down and start to become aware. But if that doesn't leave that willpower and that effort, you'll never meditate. Never. It will not work. That's why Zen says enlightenment can happen in a single moment. Because it's not a question of how to bring it. It's a question of how to allow it. Big difference. It's just like sleep. You relax, it's there. You relax, it pops up. It's struggling within your heart to come up. You're not allowing it because you have too much activity on the surface. Have you ever noticed the fact that almost 90% of children are born in the night, not in the day? I never knew that. How many of you knew that? You see, we don't know. Have you ever noticed the fact that almost 90% of children are born in the night, not in the day? Why? It should be 50-50. Why do they choose the night more? And 90%? Because the mother is unconscious. In a let go, she's sleeping, and the child can come out easily. She doesn't sleep through the whole process, I assure you. But the water breaks and the process begins when the mother is relaxed. If she is aware, she will make effort. And the law of reverse effect, there are two surprises in this reading. You just heard one of them. There's another one coming up. If she is aware, she will make an effort. And the law of reverse effect will be there. When the mother's awake, she will make every effort so that she goes beyond the pain, what they learn in Planned Parenthood. And the whole thing is finished. The child is born. Every effort is a barrier. She's putting up hindrances. The more she tries, the narrower becomes the passage, and the child cannot come out. Here's the second one. The primitive society's mothers have no pain when they give birth to a child. Anybody know that? You knew that. The primitive society's mothers have no pain when they give birth to a child. Not at all. No pain. And this is a miracle. When for the first time Western medical science discovered this, that there are still primitive societies where the mothers have no pain at all, they could not believe it. How is it possible? Then many experiments were tried, many research projects, and it was found that it's because they're really unconscious. They live like wild animals in these very primitive societies. There's no fight, no struggle, no forcing. They don't will anything. They simply float around. They are primitive. They don't have a very conscious mind. They don't think about the things we think about. The more civilized, the more you have a conscious mind. The more civilized, the more your will is trained. And your unconscious goes further and further, deeper, and there exists a gap. If something is to be done, however difficult, you can find the know-how. You can find how to do it. You can learn the technique. There are experts. You can be trained. But in Zen, nobody can be trained. In God, there are no experts, no authorities, cannot be, because it's not a question. It's not a question of know-how. It's a question of relaxing. I love this phrase, relaxing into your being. Not doing. Gurdjieff used to say, dissolve into your own ocean of bliss. Dissolve into the nectar of consciousness. And when he was suggesting it, very easy to do, he says, the greatest thing will happen to you only when you are not there. And if you are doing something, you are bound to be there. Sleep comes when you are not there. Enlightenment also follows the same rule. It comes when you are not there. When does meditation happen? When you are not there. Gurdjieff used to say, when the meditator disappears, that's when you're meditating. That's when meditation is happening.